lots of
Like,
water
YouTube
or
is like a place where you
flossing
just
their
sit up
teeth,
and just like
to
fall
more
down a
extensive
rabbit
things like
hole
taking a
of
trip
just like whole
or
kinds of
buying the
bullshit.
car they have always
So,
wanted.
I just want to listen to
Below
this book
are a few possibilities.
while I go
Exercise, work out, go for a walk, eat healthy food, get enough sleep, relax,
I get too
play,
much sleep.
goof off, get a
Goof off
massage,
too much.
go out with buddies, buy a new pair of shoes, get shoes polished, get dental work done, get a physical, listen to music. As the recovering nice guy begins to do good things for himself, he will feel uncomfortable. He may actually feel frightened, anxious, guilty, or confused. These feelings are the result of what is called cognitive dissonance. When the nice guy does something good for himself, he is doing something that implies he is valuable. This will conflict with his deeply held belief that he is worthless. As a result, he will experience dissonance, a clashing of two competing messages. In time, one of the beliefs will win. I encourage recovering nice guys to keep being good to themselves no matter how frightening. In time, the core messages from childhood are replaced with new, more accurate beliefs that reflect their inherent worth. Todd, introduced in the beginning of the chapter, spent so much time trying to get the approval of others that he rarely did anything for himself. On the encouragement of other men in his No More Mr. Nice Guy group, Todd decided to consciously begin doing things for himself. He began small, by buying himself new socks and underwear. After a few weeks, he started an exercise program and began working out regularly. Even though it made him feel guilty, he started going to a massage therapist every other week. After 6 months, Todd decided to spend $2,000 to join a singles activity club. He shared with the group that even though he occasionally heard a little voice that said he wasn't worth it, doing so was one of the most affirming things he had ever done. A couple of months later, he reported that he had gone on 2 dates with 2 different women, both of whom seemed to like him just as he was. Breaking Free, Activity 9. Begin with the list above and add good things that you can do for yourself. Put the list up where you will see it, and choose at least one thing per day, and do it for yourself. Affirming self helps nice guys learn to approve of themselves. Positive affirmations can help change the nice guy's core belief about himself. Affirmations replace old, inaccurate messages about the nice guy's worth with new, more realistic ones. When used alone, the effective affirmations are usually short-lived. This is because these messages are contrary to the oldest, deepest beliefs the nice guy holds about himself. Affirmations are only effective when used along with other processes that help change the nice guy's core beliefs.
And they always got me on tank.
Spending time alone helps nice guys learn to approve of themselves. Spending extended time alone is an important process in recovering from the nice guy syndrome. When alone, nice guys can discover who they are, what they like about themselves, and what rules they choose to govern their lives. I strongly recommend that nice guys take trips and retreats by themselves to places where no one knows them. In this context, the nice guy has fewer reasons to try to win people's approval, and there is less of a need to try to hide faults and mistakes. While alone, nice guys can reflect on themselves in the right direction. It is also a good time to practice taking responsibility for one's needs.
Let's go, baby.
When alone, the recovering nice guy can do what he wants without having to please or compromise. He will go to bed and get up when he wants. He will decide when and what to do. He will decide where he goes and what he does. When alone, he will be less likely to caretake, seek approval, sacrifice self, or try to fix someone's problems. Spending extended periods of time alone also helps recovering nice guys face their #1 fear, loneliness and isolation. When the nice guy discovers that spending time alone doesn't kill him, he may also realize that he doesn't stay in bad relationships, tolerate intolerable behavior, or manipulate people to try to get his needs met. This time alone is spent most effectively when the nice guy can observe his tendency to distract himself with addictive patterns, such as keeping busy, or using sex, food, or alcohol to meditate. Writing in a journal during these times can be especially effective. Some of the most insightful periods I have experienced in life have been by myself. Week-long retreats, and times with my wife. Breaking free. Make a list of positive affirmations about yourself. Write them on a note card and place them where you will see them regularly. Change the cards often so they stay fresh. When you read affirmations, close your eyes and fully embrace the meaning of the words. Observe any tendency of your mind to reject the affirmations in favor of old, deeply held beliefs. The following is some possible affirmations. I am lovable just as I am perfectly beautiful. Needs are important. Strong and powerful person. I can people it is okay to be human and make mistakes. I am the only person I have. Breaking free activity 11. Plan a weekend trip to the mountains. If possible, plan a vacation or retreat for a week or longer by yourself to a place where no one knows you. Visit a foreign country by yourself if at all possible.
Woo!
Use this time as an opportunity for self-observation and reflection. Keep a journal. Practice good self-care. Take along this book and spend time doing the breaking free exercises. When you return home, observe how you are different and how long it takes for you to begin returning to familiar patterns. Revealing self helps nice guys learn to approve of themselves. When nice guys try to hide their humanity, they reinforce their core belief that they are bad and unlovable. Changing this core belief requires that they bring their humanity out into the open, release their toxic shame, and receive more accurate messages than the ones internalized in childhood. By necessity, a safe person, safe people. As frightening as it may initially feel, finding these safe people is essential for learning to improve yourself. The recovering nice guy cannot do this part alone. Saving people is essential for reversing the distorted beliefs all nice guys have about their work. This process requires building trust. I suggest that the recovering nice guy set a regular time to meet with his safe person or group, and, a little at a time, start revealing himself. This process begins by just talking about himself. This in itself makes many nice guys uncomfortable. Over time, the recovering nice guy can begin revealing the things about himself that he is the least comfortable with.
Oh, we're just gonna go with her.
Once trust has been established, he can begin to reveal things about himself that create fear and shame. I have watched many nice guys go from being secretive and evasive to revealing their deepest, darkest secrets in the presence of people. Louise, discovering alcoholic, member of the No One Is the Nice Guy group, is a good example of that process. Reed came into a group late one evening and remained quiet and detached for the first 30 or 40 minutes. Was he able to join in actively or quiet signal that he was emotionally withdrawn? When an opportune time arose, I told Reed to soon withdraw. Once the attention of the group focused on others, things shifted from detachment terror. Almost didn't come tonight, he whispered softly as he looked down at his hands. In fact, I was thinking about quitting the group. A couple of the guys reflected the concern of the whole group by asking what was going on.
Oh, let's break it!
It's okay.
What a shot!
My thoughts began to race as to what he could have done that might cause the group to rise up in judgment against him. One of the group members asked if he was
Damn!
fair.
We ain't get nothing in there.
No. Worse. Reed
Come on,
responded.
y'all.
I've done something so terrible. I don't even know if I can tell you about it. As the group offered their support and encouragement, Reed broke through his fear and shame
Let's shoot for a new high
and
score.
began to open up. Last week,
Activating the barrier.
I got reprimanded by my boss, and then I got into a fight with my wife. I was so depressed that I went out and bought a fifth of vodka and got drunk. I've been in a binge ever since, and I just can't make myself stop. Tears were running down Reed's face as the shame of his addiction to alcohol raised its ugly head once again. He had been clean and sober since joining the group 6 months earlier. He was active in Alcoholics Anonymous, but had experienced a number of slips and relapses in his 12 years of recovery. A group member handed him a box of tissues and Reed wiped his eyes. He was telling the story and revealing his shame in between sobs. Back to all my old ways of lying and manipulating. I'm totally out of control. I asked him to call his sponsor and gone to a meeting. He shook his head. He had slipped so many times that he didn't think anyone would care. I want him back. Members of the group shared with Reed that they didn't make him, nor did they judge him. They could see that he was hurting. They told him that they had great respect if he came into group and revealed what was going on, especially since he had so much shame about it. After a few moments, Reed revealed, it's not all. There's more. He began to sob once again. Lifting his hand to his forehead, he shook his head in disgust of himself. Thank you. It gets worse. I went to the peep shows near my work 2 times this week. I had been doing so good. Choked up in sobs. Now I've blown it all. I feel totally worthless. I don't want to go on living. I've made a mess of everything. For the rest of the hour, the group supported him and encouraged him to go all the way through his shame. They reassured him that it wasn't bad. No one judged him. To the contrary, everyone respected him for revealing his shame. They supported him, talking to his wife about his sponsor. They asked him to call one group member each day during the next week and let them know how he was doing. When Reed left the group, he had also released a heavy burden and received the support of a group of people who genuinely cared about him. Be okay. No matter how deeply Reed feared that his badness would cause people to judge him, neither of these things happened. Instead, he received the message that there was nothing he could do to make the men in the group stop liking or stop caring about him.
It's playing again.
Shedding old skin. As recovering nice guys release their toxic shame and start seeking their own approval, they begin to realize several important truths. I'm not bad. They don't have to do to win other people's approval. They don't have to hide their perceived flaws or mistakes. People can love them just as they are. As recovering nice guys begin to apply the principles described in this chapter, they will embrace the reality that they are human. Like every other human, nice guys make mistakes, use poor judgment, and act inappropriately. Nevertheless, their humanity doesn't make them bad or unlovable, nor does it cause other people to stop loving them. Imperfect humans can only connect with other imperfect humans. Most folks tend to be attracted to individuals who have some substance and sense of self. Chameleons usually don't draw much of a crowd, yet they're tenacious. By shedding their chameleon skin and learning to please themselves, recovering nice guys begin to experience intimacy and connection. By learning to approve of themselves, they begin to radiate a life energy and charisma that draws people to you. Nice guys stop seeking approval and stop trying to hide their perceived flaws. They open the door to start getting what they really want in love and life. Chapter 4. Make your needs a priority. I want you to know that I'm really uncomfortable with that thing we talked about last week. Lars, an anxiety-filled executive, began his second session of counseling with this statement. Lars had come to see me on the encouragement of his wife. I reported being genuinely depressed, laughing for as long as he could remember. In recent months, he had found it difficult to sleep at night and was experiencing migraine headaches on a regular basis. Even though everything in his life seemed to be fine, good job, nice home, family, etc., he never seemed to be happy. In his first counseling session, Lars revealed the constant fantasies of chucking it all and disappearing to somewhere else in the world. These thoughts made him feel guilty, so he kept them to himself. In that session, I asked Lars what he did for himself. He gave me a puzzled look. "What do you mean?" he asked. I repeated the question. After a pause, he answered, "Not much, I guess." For the rest of the session, I shared with him the importance of making his needs a priority and taking responsibility for finding ways to meet them. This discussion was met with both fear and resistance from Lars. The same hesitancy was repeated as he began his second counseling session. "Which part of our discussion last week made you uncomfortable?" I asked. "All of it," he responded. "That part about making my needs a priority really made me uptight." I asked him what part about taking responsibility for his needs made him anxious. "Everything," he responded. "That seems like that would make me selfish and self-centered, which you neglect your body. Write down 3 ways in which you can start taking better care of yourself." Seeking out healthy role models helps nice guys reclaim their masculinity. I encourage recovering nice guys to visualize what they think a healthy male would look like, and think of healthy masculine traits they would like to develop. With that picture in mind, they can go out and look for men who have these kinds of qualities. These men may be in their church, their company, their softball team, even characters on TV or the movies. By observing how these men live their lives and interact with the world, the nice guy can begin assimilating a healthier model of manhood. Like many recovering nice guys, I have done this work by committee. I developed a friendship with one man who was good at doing guy things. I formed a relationship with another guy who was a hard worker. I created a relationship with a man who was comfortable revealing himself and sharing his feelings. I made another friend who was good at taking risks and challenging himself. Each of these men, in their own way, helped me see what it looks like to be male, and have been role models for reclaiming my own masculinity. Breaking Free, Activity 27. Visualize what you think a healthy male would look like. What personality traits would he possess? Write these down. Do you know anyone who has a number of these traits? How could you use this person as a healthy role model? Re-examining their relationship with their father helps nice guys reclaim their masculinity. As I've mentioned before, most nice guys do not report having had a close relationship with their father in childhood. Their fathers were either passive, unavailable, absent, or defined in some negative way. Reclaiming their masculinity requires that nice guys examine their relationships with their fathers and take a look at them through adult eyes. Matthew, a computer programmer in his mid-40s, is a good example of this process. On one occasion, in a No More Mr. Nice Guy group, Matthew stated that he had no intention of attending his father's funeral when he should die. Months later, after exploring his relationship with his father in the group, he decided to call and confront his dad when he didn't get invited to a family function. Matt's mother had always portrayed his dad as a villain, while representing herself as a victim. While talking with his father, Matthew came to the realization that even though his dad had problems, he wasn't bad like his mother had made him out to be.
Duh, nigga.
From this encounter, Matthew also realized that he had created a similar scenario with his wife, identifying her as the villain and himself as the victim.
Like, you're just not seducing
Not
your
only
wife.
did that phone call to his father begin to change his relationship with his dad, but also with his wife. For nice guys, re-examining their relationship with their fathers means seeing their dads through their own eyes as they really are. It means taking them out of the gutter or off of the pedestal. This may require that nice guys hold them accountable by expressing their feelings to them, including rage and anger. This is essential,
It's parenthood.
even if these men are dead. Sometimes this takes place in their father's presence, sometimes not. It's not so important that the father is available to do this work. What is essential is that recovering nice guys embrace the male heritage they and their fathers share. The goal is to find a way to view fathers more accurately. Recovering nice guys can begin to accept these men for who they were and are, wounded human beings. This shift is essential if nice guys are going to view themselves more accurately, accept themselves for who they are, and reclaim their masculinity. Breaking Free, Activity 28. Embracing masculinity involves coming to see Dad more accurately. To facilitate this process, create a list. On the left side, list a number of your father's characteristics. Write the opposite characteristic on the right side. Indicate where on the spectrum between the two that you see yourself. When recovering nice guys do this exercise, they are often surprised at what they discover about their fathers and themselves. They often see how they have made their fathers into a caricature, a distortion of who they really are. They may realize that if the man they have become is based on a reaction to how they saw their fathers, they too have become caricatures. Remember, the opposite of crazy is still crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They realize that if their lives are a reaction to Dad, then Dad is still in control. They discover that they can be different from Dad without being the opposite. They often come to realize that they have more traits in common with their fathers than they had previously realized or wanted to accept. Passing the benefits of masculinity on to the next generation. Part 1. Snakes and Snails. As I work to raise my sons, I realize that they are growing up in a world very much like the one that created my generation of nice guys. Boys are disconnected from men and are dependent on gaining the approval of women. This was brought home to me a couple of years back when our family moved to a new home the summer before my son Steve entered the 4th grade. When I attended his PTA open house, I was jolted with a dose of reality. In kindergarten through 5th grade, there was only one male classroom teacher in the whole school. That's about a 20-to-1 ratio. As the teachers were introduced a grade at a time and then stood together on the gym floor, I received a visual picture of the environment in which little boys spend the most impressionable years of their lives. As a recovering nice guy, I have a unique chance to pass on a new model of masculinity, not only to my sons and daughter, but to a whole generation of boys and girls. The more time I spend working with nice guys, the more I realize that this process represents a powerful tool for giving the next generation a saner model of what it means to be men and women. Unfortunately, our culture provides few rituals in which adult males help boys leave the comfort of a nursery ruled by women, home, preschool, school, and enter the world of adult manhood. Robert Bly discusses the importance of these rituals in his book Iron John. In primitive societies, Bly writes, the boys are pretty much raised by the women until early adolescence. When it is time for the boys to leave the sphere of female influence and move into the men's world, the men of the tribe stage a raid. They put on their war paint, enter the village, and steal the boys away. The women, on cue, weep, protest, and do their best to hang on to the boys. After the men have taken the boys outside the village for their period of initiation, the women get together and ask, how did I do? Was I believable? In these cultures, the men and women work together to facilitate this process of transition and initiation. These days, boys try to make this transition from a world ruled by women, but they can't do it on their own. I have a theory that the phase that adolescent boys pass through, where they dress sloppily, look scraggly, act aggressively, hole up in their room, slouch, play loud music, swear, and spit a lot, are all unconsciously aimed at making themselves so repulsive that even their mothers can't stand them. This helps them break the symbiotic bonds with their moms. Nevertheless, these young men still need help from adult males in pulling away from their mothers without feeling guilt and shame, and without overly self-destructive behaviors. I believe recovering nice guys can help boys find a saner model of what it means to be male in our culture. This is because there are certain things that boys can only learn from men. As nice guys embrace their masculinity, they can teach their sons what it means to be male. This includes how to handle their aggression, how to handle their libido, how to relate to women, how to bond with a man, and perhaps most importantly, how to embrace their own masculinity. Men teach these lessons both by example and by interaction with young boys. As a recovering nice guy, I also benefit from being with my adolescent sons and their friends. When I'm around my boys, I get to see unbridled maleness in action. Not only do I get to teach my sons how to handle their testosterone-related behaviors, such as aggression and sexuality, they also show me how to embrace mine. This reciprocal process requires time and interaction. Fathers need to take their sons hunting and fishing, work on cars with them, take them to work, coach their teams, take them to ball games, work out with them, take them on business trips, and let them tag along with them when they want to go out with the guys. All of these activities help boys move successfully into the male world. This process is not just limited to a man's biological sons. Nice guys can get involved with young relatives, scouts, sports teams, school activities, or big brothers. Trey, a single man in his late 30s, illustrates the power of this male influence. One night in his men's group, Trey talked about his nephew, who was being raised by Trey's sister, a single mother. Trey had strong feelings about what was happening to his nephew, because the boy was going through some of the same rebellion and acting out with alcohol that Trey had experienced at the same age. The group encouraged Trey to reach out to his nephew and be a positive male influence. The next week in group, Trey was beaming. He told how he had taken his nephew to the hardware store and how the two of them had put together a workbench. His nephew was thrilled with the male contact. Trey came away with a feeling that he had done something positive to help change the direction of a struggling young boy. Breaking Free, Activity 29. How can you provide a healthy male support system for the boys and young men you know? List 3 boys along with an activity you can participate in with them. Passing the benefits on, Part 2, Sugar and Spice.
Damn.
Little girls can benefit from this reclaimed masculine energy as well. The men in one of my No More Mr. Nice Guy groups showed me the benefits of male energy on a young girl in a powerful way. One of the members, Lamar, had a 12-year-old daughter with bone cancer. She had to have a leg removed and undergo chemotherapy and radiation. As a result, she had spent countless days and nights in a hospital bed. One Friday evening, while Lamar was sitting at the hospital at his daughter's bedside, the members of his men's group showed up unexpectedly to take him out to dinner. In addition to providing masculine support for Lamar during a difficult time, the men also produced an unexpected dividend. Energized by their presence, Lamar's daughter sat up and received hugs from each guy. That night, she needed less medication and slept better than she had in weeks. The next day, all she could talk about was her guys who had come to visit her the night before. Recovering nice guys can show their daughters what a real man looks like. Girls benefit by seeing their fathers set boundaries, ask for what they want in clear and direct ways, work hard, create, produce, have male friends, and make their own needs a priority. As with little boys, girls can learn what it means to be male both by watching their fathers and by interacting with them. This modeling will have a positive influence on their choice of future partners. A no-lose situation. As nice guys reclaim their masculine energy, everyone wins. Not only does the recovering nice guy get to experience deeper bonds with men, but his relationships with women grow too. Perhaps most significantly, a whole new generation of boys and girls reap the benefits of seeing what a healthy male really looks like. Chapter 7. Get the love you want. Success strategies for intimate relationships. I'm a victim of her dysfunction. Carl, a successful businessman in his mid-30s, began his first counseling session with the preceding analysis of his relationship with his wife, Danita. Though over 6'2" and professionally dressed in a dark suit and tie, Carl looked like a little boy sitting on the sofa in my office. Carl's frustration and helplessness regarding his most intimate relationship was unmistakable. As Carl continued to talk about his marriage, it became apparent that he was intimidated by his wife, Danita. He claimed she was angry all the time. When talking about her, he used adjectives like relentless and steamroller. Because of his fear of her anger, he lied to her and avoided interacting with her. In many ways, Carl revealed, Danita is just like my mother. There was just no pleasing Mom. I learned to just avoid her and tune her out when she was bitching. I really got good at lying and hiding what I didn't want her to know about. I guess I'm still pretty good at that today. As Carl brought the discussion back to the present, he revealed, every other area of my life is great. If it wasn't for Danita, my life would be perfect. I just don't think she knows how to be happy. Intimate strangers. In general, nice guys end up in my office for one of two reasons. It's Sometimes some hidden behavior, an affair, surfing for pornography on the internet, smoking pot, has blown up in their face and created a crisis with their wife or girlfriend. More often, their call to a therapist is motivated by some problem or dissatisfaction in their most intimate relationship. Their partner doesn't want to have sex as often as they do. She is depressed, angry, unavailable, or unfaithful, or all of the above. These men usually believe there is a simple answer to their problem. Some of them are sure everything will be okay if they can just stop doing that one thing that keeps making their partner so angry. The rest of them are convinced that if they can get their partner to change, then life will be great. A note: the majority of the men with whom I work are heterosexual. Though I have observed similar relationship issues with gay men, many of the examples I use in this chapter reflect male-female relationships. More often than not, I will use the pronoun she or her when referring to the nice guy's partner. Intimate relationships are often an area of great frustration and bewilderment for nice guys. Most nice guys profess a great desire for intimacy and happiness with their significant other. Nevertheless, intimacy represents an enigmatic riddle for the majority of these men. Here is what I have concluded after several years of observing countless nice guys. Even though nice guys often profess a deep desire to be intimately connected with another individual, their internalized toxic shame and childhood survival mechanisms make such connections difficult and problematic. Why nice guys struggle to get the love they want. There are a number of reasons why nice guys have difficulty getting the love they want. These include their toxic shame, the dysfunctional relationships they co-create, their patterns of enmeshment and avoidance, the familiar childhood relationship dynamics they recreate, their unconscious need to remain monogamous to their mother. They are bad enders. Toxic shame prevents nice guys from getting the love they want. Intimacy implies vulnerability. I define intimacy as knowing the self, being known by another, and knowing another. Intimacy requires two people who are willing to courageously look inward and make themselves totally visible to another. Internalized toxic shame makes this kind of exposure feel life-threatening for nice guys. Intimacy by its nature would require the nice guy to look into the abyss of his most inner self and allow others to peer into these same places. It would require the nice guy to let someone get close enough to see into all the nooks and crannies of his soul. This terrifies nice guys because being known means being found out. All nice guys have worked their entire lives to become what they believe others want them to be, while trying to hide their perceived flaws. The demands of intimacy represent everything nice guys fear most. Co-creating dysfunctional relationships prevents nice guys from getting the love they want. The nice guy's ongoing attempt to hide his perceived badness makes intimacy a challenge. The moment a nice guy enters a relationship, he begins a balancing act. In relationships, a life and death struggle is played out to balance their fear of vulnerability with their fear of isolation. Vulnerability means someone may get too close to them and see how bad they are. Nice guys are convinced that when others make this discovery, these people will hurt them, shame them, or leave them. The alternative doesn't seem any better. Isolating themselves from others recreates the abandonment experiences that were so terrifying in childhood. In order to balance his fear of vulnerability and fear of abandonment, a nice guy needs help. He finds it in people who are equally wounded and also have difficulty with intimacy. Together, They co-create relationships
You knew I could
that
stop and still keep
simultaneously
cocking.
frustrate all parties while protecting them from their fear of being found out.
Alright, I'm about to tip off.
Even though it may